Ricky bringing attention to the atmosphere. All right, hey guys, how's everybody doing today? I'm really honored to be here. I'm going to keep my sunglasses on because I have a hangover, and these lights are really awkward. I'm going to keep my jacket on because I was born in Florida, and it's freaking cold here. So we'll get right into it. I'll justify to you why I'm in front of you speaking to you today. I'll try and compose a hour-long speech I usually give into 30 minutes, so I'm going to go kind of quick. So why am I in front of you today and why I have a point to speak to you? I actually have been in this industry, in the cannabis industry, since the very first legal transaction. Back in 2013, when the state of Washington went live and they said, okay, we're gonna have a legal cannabis industry for adult use, they said we also are going to have an overarching track and trace governmental system to see where every plant has been cultivated, it's been manufactured, it's been made into an edible, or it's been transported, or even it's been dispensed. We built that system called BioTrack THC. We won that RFP back in 2014. We took live the state of Washington for the first ever tracked and traced transaction of cannabis in the United States in July of 2014. I actually sold the 8th to the governor, which was pretty cool. We did the same thing for Hawaii, Alaska, Rhode Island, Maryland, Maine, and Massachusetts coming up. So BioTrack has been in the industry for quite some time. We also built a commercial operating system which ran over 3,100 at its peak, 3,100 cannabis operations in 31 states and in 15 countries. Tracked over $8.5 billion in cannabis sales. Okay, blah, 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 why do I say this all? In 2018, I started working for a Fortune 500 law firm. And this law firm called Zuber Lawler did some groundbreaking stuff. And we achieved the first new dietary ingredient designation with the FDA for efficacy of hemp in foods. We achieved the first generally recognized as safe designation with the FDA for hemp safety in food, hemp proteins in food. And we also achieved the first cannabinoid plant patent. Now, I bring this all up because in that effort, this law firm sent me to 68 cities and 19 countries in 1 year. And so traveling around doing this speech and others like it in different cities and geographies, I got a sense of where this industry is going. And I have kind of some depressing news for people, but it's news that you should hear so you can properly prepare yourself for what I foresee is coming in the industry and why I'm speaking to you about sustainability today. So in that venture, 68 cities and 19 countries, I was able, lucky enough, to bring in one of the law firm's clients called Bella Green Ventures. Bella Green Ventures I mention all the time because you might not know this company, but you certainly will in the next 6, 9, 12 months maybe. Bella Green Ventures is one of the 7 licensees of the Mexican market. Now, they've come together as the largest agricultural producer of Mexico, as well as the largest generic drug manufacturer of Mexico. So they already produce 450 generic drugs, which they distribute to 47 countries. They already have a 20 square kilometer environmentally controlled greenhouse up and running today, producing fresh cut flowers, sugarcane, all the things we can't afford by economies of scale to produce here in the United States. That one facility, in combination with their existing extraction and manufacturing capabilities, could put the entire Western Hemisphere cultivation of hemp for ingestible metabolic purposes out of business. They can produce more than our entire Western Hemisphere demands. So what do we do? You know, the reason I'm up on stage when you're talking to me about this is now that you have that realization that wow, one of these institutions, as soon as they're given a DEA importation license into the United States, they are going to be able to produce cannabinoid profiles cheaper, more consistently, in more professional manner than we can ever compete with here in the United States. So what do we do as a burgeoning brand? As we look at the alternatives, hemp is God's plant. And you know, give me an amen if you feel it, because it really is. Hemp is the only plant that can feed us, clothe us, and house us. And so when you're looking at the possibilities here, I like to make a simple analogy. The size of like the Get High market, the Delta 9 or Delta 8, the size of that market is like the size of your fist. If you look at the size of the ingestible CBD and the metabolic change and beneficial aspects of the plant, that market, in my opinion, is about the size maybe of your whole body. But all of us put together are the size of the industrial hemp opportunity. So I started something a little bit unique, and I thought to myself, how am I going to save the American hemp farmer? You know, knowing that this impending opening of DEA licensing, allowing Belgrade to start flooding the market with cheap isolate, you know, save the small farmer. How are we going to do that? We're going to open up and make cool hemp as an industrial product. Now, I started in a way that I think that, you know, most people can relate to, because everybody's got feet. And if you don't have feet, I will build you a special shoe. So I partnered with a third-generation family of cobblers in Tepoztlan, Mexico, who were making shoes by hand for over 100 years. No machine touches our shoe. And I thought to myself, what if I take, instead of Ute, biodegradable hemp? And we started experimenting with biodegradable hemp alternatives. Now, after almost 2 years of this pursuit, we've discovered a way to use a hemp composite sole, which kind of has a rubberistic kind of feel to it, which will biodegrade. Now we're putting seeds in that sole so that when you plant your shoe, after 12 months, microbes will come and eat that hemp, they'll dissolve that sole, and they'll release those seeds. And after 15 months, you should have a hemp plant. And after 18 months, if you want to harvest that hemp, send it back to us, we'll make you another shoe. So this is the kind of things I want to inspire people to start thinking about. Hemp is not only an alternative for our metabolic absorption or calming us down or anti-inflammatory or help us sleep. It's here to help the world change the way that we have organized our society in very pollutive ways. So the shoes that you guys are wearing right now most likely will last anywhere from 200 to 400 years. They're very, very difficult to biodegrade, or even, none of them biodegrade, excuse me, to recycle. You have to chop them up, you have to burn them, you have to melt them into other things. Furthermore, we have a very nasty aspect of our clothing and fashion industries that most of the shoes, I hate to say it, were made by people between the ages of 4 and 10 years old. So when you think, not my shoes, no. My shoes were made by a family that's been making these shoes for over 100 years. And so that's the point that I'm up here to inspire you guys about, is to look at the alternatives. Because if you look at this conference right here, they've done a fantastic job, but there's one after another competing with each other. And unless you are innovative, you have something by which you can apply 3 basic principles, which I'm going to give you right now, of hints to make it as the commoditization comes through. Unless you can apply these 3, you're going to have a very, very difficult time surviving as the industry begins to commoditize on a global scale. You know, we haven't all been here as long as Charlotte's Web has, right? But each person here is trying to make a living or trying to survive or build a business in this industry, as they rightly should. So here are the tricks that will last to make sure that we've done for large companies like Charlotte's Web that help them and will allow them to get on mainstream big box retail stores. Number 1, if you have a product that is a manufactured product that you can produce organically, get your organic certifications. Utilize seed to manufactured product testing that allows for you to demonstrate full compliance with the 2018 Farm Bill. So if you are accessing a raw material and formulating with it, ask the customer or the supplier of it for a full chain of custody. That means you'll have the license of the farm associated with the genetic of the seed, that COA, back to the flower it produced, back to the isolate that it made, back to the D8 that it manufactured, all the way through if you are in that market. Number two, if you are producing a product that has a homeostasis effect, look to do your legal work as fast as possible. You have the ability to make an ethical claim known as a new dietary ingredient by the FDA. The FDA has already given us the pathway by which they are going to regulate the market. So they do it in 3 different ways. An NDA, which is a $1 billion process, that's Epidiolex. That's GW Pharmaceutical. Unless you have 10 years and $1 billion, forget about it. But an NDI will allow for you to say, my product actually puts you to sleep. So get there as fast as possible. As well as, the secondary is, if you're producing a hemp food, or you want to have something that's a tincture, safe for human consumption, generally recognized as safe designation with the FDA. These two designations will take you about a year's period of time and about $100,000 to $150,000 of legal work to achieve. But once you do that, you now are available to enter large-scale markets, not just smoke shops or boutiques. We're talking about Walgreens, we're talking about Target, because think about it, the companies that are making that effort, they're the only ones they're going to consider. They're not going to risk their billion-dollar Target brand on a product that might one day have a recall. Does that make sense? And the third thing I'd like to inspire you guys to think about is all of your activity in the process of making your product. Right now, we're in a process of a paradigm shift in the consumer. The consumer is more, more aware of the pollutive nature of their purchasing. The way that their product that they are loyal to is packaged. If I had a choice between buying a pair of shoes that I knew that was made by a 6-year-old or a family-honored tradition, I would take the latter. And I think, especially for people that are consuming a plant-based product, that is exactly the same mindset. I'll give you one final hint for product development that has worked very well for us. At BioTrack, we processed the first $1.4 billion of cannabis sales out of the state of Washington. In that, we did a lot of different queries. We looked at who that consumer was, what made their decisions up, what influenced them. The things that we found is that the female consumer dominates the household spending. I'll say it again. The female consumer is the decision maker of the household. She visits a retail location 1.37 times as often as the next highest spending male demographic. She's 35 to 45 years old, and she spends 1.87 times as much as the next highest male demographic. So what does that tell you? She decides where the family vacations, where they go to school, what they wear, what they eat, and most likely what they're spending their expendable income on. So the female consumer is the consumer. She is the decision maker. Give her the respect she deserves, and always focus on the sustainability of your product. So that's it. Mic drop. Do you guys have any questions? If you look at hemp seed, it contains more protein than grass-fed beef. But if the bigger play, even beyond changing the paradigm of the human consuming, is livestock. We have been riddled with all these diseases as of late in our health system because we have deprived our endocannabinoid system, right? I mean, I'm speaking to the choir here, but when the white blood cell's not told what to do, it's not working as well to defend our body. But we used to have the communication through that because it came through our livestock. We used to feed our livestock hemp. So the larger opportunity, the larger market, instead of trying to make people change their dietary consumption rate, because then you're going up against McDonald's, you're going against some flashy colors, you're going against the cheap options. Livestock. I love it. I'm not enough educated to speak on the science of all those things, and so I stay in my lane very well. I'm making shoes. I'm like the Al Bundy of the cannabis industry, keeping it easy. Anybody else? Hey, I will recommend one of my partners over here, Bill Bartels. If anybody has any high-risk credit or card transactions you need to get done, or your business needs help, Bill's the guy to see. Hey, thanks, guys.